Get out, you lowlife. We don't need uneducated trash polluting this family. That's what my father screamed, veins bulging, face red, finger stabbing toward the door like I was dirt under his shoe. My mother stood behind him, arms crossed, nodding in agreement. No hesitation. No mercy. My name is Valeria, and if you think you know how this ends, stay, because sometimes silence is what power sounds like when it finally stops begging to be heard. It was supposed to be a simple dinner, a casual, "How have you been?" After months apart, I showed up in jeans and sandals, laptop still warm from a client call. I tried to explain what I'd been building: a fintech ecosystem, small equity plays in logistics, a partnership with an international payments app expanding into 9 countries. My father scoffed. "You never finished college." My mother chimed in. "You work in cafes with that laptop like some scammer." Then came the line that burned like acid. "You're just pretending to be successful. You'll come crawling back like always." I looked around the room, the house I helped remodel with my own hands, the floor I'd paid for, the fridge stocked with groceries from my card. I didn't feel rage. I felt clarity. I stood, tucked in my chair, grabbed my keys and said one word. "Okay." They laughed as I walked out. But what they didn't know was that, earlier that same morning, the so-called cafe scammer had just closed a $7.8 million deal. That the uneducated trash held majority shares in a startup now valued at $200 million. I wasn't leaving in shame. I was leaving in silence, heading back to my beachfront home, where the ocean listens better than family ever did. 3 weeks later, my phone lit up not with apologies, but with panic. "Valeria, the bank froze our accounts. We're about to lose the house. Our retirement fund was a scam. The trash they threw out now smelled like salvation. But I don't open doors for people who slammed them on me first." By Thursday, the calls were constant unknown numbers, blocked IDs, voicemails full of fake concern. By Sunday, 16 missed calls from my mother. The same woman who once called me a mistake that didn't know her place. Her last voicemail cracked between sobs. "Sweetheart, we need to talk. It's urgent." I didn't call back. I was busy watching the sunrise from my balcony, coffee in hand, my personal chef humming in the kitchen, too busy reviewing the 3rd buyout offer from a major Silicon Valley firm. It's funny how quiet life becomes when you cut off the noise of people who only clap when you're small. Then came the security call. "Miss Reyes, there's an older couple downstairs. They say they're your parents." I smiled. "Tell them I'm unavailable, and please remind them no unapproved guests allowed." 10 minutes later, I opened the building's CCTV feed. There they were, my father pacing, my mother dabbing at tears she hadn't earned. They looked lost, out of place, like strangers in a world built by the daughter they threw away. Back when I dropped out of college, they told the entire family I was a failure. That I was working online for scraps. What I was actually doing was designing an algorithm that now powers one of the fastest growing credit systems in the Southeast. My team calls me the quiet billionaire in sneakers. I just call it freedom. Freedom from shame. Freedom from begging for respect. Freedom from family who only values you once the world already does. That night, I got a final text from my father. "We're struggling. Please, just a small loan until things get better." I read it twice and replied with 3 words. Thought I was trash. Delivered. Read. No reply. Because when someone throws you out like garbage, they don't get to knock on your mansion door asking to borrow gold. And that, right there, was only the beginning. Because while they were scrambling to survive, the next move I made would turn every insult they'd ever said into an empire they'd have to watch, from the outside. The silence after my message lasted 3 full days. No texts, no calls, no desperate voicemails trying to justify themselves. Just the heavy quiet that always follows when people finally see the reflection they've spent a lifetime avoiding. But I wasn't waiting for them to speak. I was too busy signing a new partnership deal, $12 million in Series B funding. My company's valuation now crossing $45 million. The lowlife they kicked out had just become the CEO their friends read about in Forbes. Then came the twist I didn't expect. My sister called. We hadn't spoken in almost 2 years, not since that Thanksgiving when she mocked me for chasing fake internet money while sipping wine I had paid for. "Valeria," she said softly. Her tone was off, fragile, cautious. "They're not doing well. Dad's had 2 panic attacks. Mom barely eats. They know they went too far." I didn't reply. She kept going. "I'm not asking you to forgive them, just help them survive this. They're scared." I let out a long breath. Do you remember? I asked quietly. What Dad called me that night? She hesitated. Yes. And Mom? She said you were a mistake. The silence that followed said everything. Then answer me this, I continued. If they hadn't fallen, would they have ever called? My sister didn't respond, and she didn't have to because we both knew the truth. They didn't miss me. They missed the version of me that paid their bills. The daughter who showed up with flowers after being told she wasn't good enough. But that girl was gone. And in her place stood a woman who built an empire out of rejection. That night, I wrote an email not out of anger, but out of precision. I'm sorry for your situation, truly. But this is the life you said I didn't deserve, the same one you mocked me for building. I will not fund comfort for people who chose cruelty when kindness cost them nothing. I wish you healing. From a distance. Send. No hesitation. Because closure doesn't always come from apologies. Sometimes it comes from refusing to reopen doors you already walked through on fire. The following weekend, the world found out what my family never could. The failure they disowned had just been featured on the cover of Business Weekly. Headline: College dropout builds $45M empire alone. There was a photo me, barefoot on my balcony, wind in my hair, holding a mug that read self-funded. Within hours, old classmates messaged me, former bosses, 2 exes, even professors who once said I'd never make it. And yes, my parents saw it. I know because my sister sent me screenshots of their group chat. Mom, she's embarrassing us. Dad, she's doing this for attention, always was a performer. There it was again, the same pride that made them blind the first time now choking them while the world applauded the daughter they threw away. But I didn't need their approval. The world didn't validate me. I validated me. And as I stared at that magazine cover, I realized something. Their rejection was my investment. And the return had just hit compound interest. That Sunday evening, I hosted a small dinner at my beach house, 10 people, max. No family, no noise, just the ones who had believed in me when no one else did. My lead engineer, my first investor, the childhood friend who gave me his couch when I had nothing. We toasted not to money, but to survival, to the nights when faith was the only currency left. Someone asked, Valeria, if they called you tomorrow begging to see you, would you forgive them? I smiled, not because it was funny, but because the answer had lived inside me for years. I already have, I said, but forgiveness doesn't mean access. They all nodded. Because real forgiveness isn't about reopening doors, it's about locking them gently and walking away with peace in your pocket. Later that night, my phone buzzed again. Unknown number, one message. We saw the article. Can we come visit? I didn't reply. Because they didn't want to see me? They wanted to stand next to what I'd built, the success they never believed in until the world confirmed it. By Monday morning, my lawyer called. Valeria, your parents' financial advisor reached out. They're behind on property taxes, 6 months overdue. They're asking if you'd consider a small loan. I paused. Send them my rates, I said calmly. Business only. He laughed at first, thinking I was joking. Then he realized I wasn't. Understood. This wasn't family anymore. It was business. And they taught me, the hard way, that if they won't treat you like a daughter, don't offer love like one. That week, my aunt tried her turn. She called crying, playing mediator. Sweetheart, your parents made mistakes. They're old school. They didn't mean it like that. But they did. Every word, every sneer, every eye roll when I said I was coding, every time my father told the neighbors I was probably some online receptionist. That receptionist now owned 2 corporations, 12 rental units, and 4 trademarks. Still, I kept my voice steady. Aunt Linda, I've forgiven them, but I'm not responsible for them. She went quiet. Because that was the line, the one no one in my family had ever drawn. They confused access with love. They thought being family meant I owed them a safety net even when they cut every thread that connected us. But my support isn't free, it's earned. And they never made the down payment. Instead, I made one on my second property in Miami, oceanfront, paid in cash. While they clung to pride, I invested in peace. And peace? It never yells lowlife. It never calls you a mistake. It just welcomes you home if you remember who you had to become to afford it. By Friday, desperation started to look like theater. A padded envelope arrived, no return address, but I recognized the handwriting immediately. My mother's. It began with, Valeria, we made mistakes. We only wanted better for you. Then it twisted emotional landmines disguised as apologies. We were scared. We didn't understand your choices. Can't we just start over? At the bottom, one final line written in shaky ink. We'd love to see the beach house. Of course. Because that's what it was always about. Not me, what I had. I folded the letter twice, dropped it in the shredder, and pressed on. Because you don't get to disown someone then request a tour of the palace they built from the rubble you left behind. The next morning, the magazine hit every shelf and feed across the country. Front cover, she was told she'd never make it, now she doesn't answer unknown calls. My photo stretched across the page barefoot on the marble deck of my beach house, wind in my hair, eyes calm, unbothered. Inside, a 6-page spread told the real story, no sob narrative, no fake empowerment cliches, just truth. Daughter dismissed for chasing an unconventional path, now CEO of a $45 million empire. No degree, no apology, just results. By Wednesday, my parents' entire social circle had seen it. Their church, their neighbors, even Dad's old golf buddies. I know because my cousin sent me a screenshot. Dad had texted, "I'm sick of people asking about her like she's some kind of hero. She betrayed us." No, Dad, I didn't betray you. You abandoned me and I survived anyway. That's not betrayal, that's becoming. 3 days later, another letter arrived. This one smaller, no dramatic wording, just quiet handwriting that read, "We see now that we were wrong. If there's ever a place for us in your life again, we'd be grateful. Love, Mom and Dad." I sat with it for hours. There was a time when that letter would have made me crumble, when I would have rushed to call, to fix things, to finally feel chosen. But that version of me doesn't live here anymore. I don't need to be chosen by people who couldn't even recognize me. So I wrote back, not to reopen a door, but to close it properly. Dear Mom and Dad, you taught me what it feels like to be unwanted, what it means to be discarded, and in doing so, you taught me how to build something no one could take from me. I forgive you, but forgiveness does not include access. You will not be part of this chapter because you tore out every page that could have included you. I wish you healing, from the distance you created. Valeria. No tears, no shaking hands. Just clarity. Because peace isn't loud. It's the quiet that stays after you stop trying to prove your worth to people who refuse to see it. 6 months passed. No more letters, no calls, just silence, not the kind that aches, but the kind that sings. In those 6 months, I launched 2 new companies, funded 5 women-led startups, and created a scholarship for girls like me, the ones who were brilliant but overlooked, told they didn't belong at the table. I no longer chase love that demands permission. People ask me sometimes, "Don't you ever feel lonely?" Here's what I tell them. Loneliness is living in a house where your voice doesn't matter. Peace is waking up in a home built with your own hands, every corner whispering, "You did this." So, no, I don't feel lonely. I feel free. They kicked me out thinking they were breaking me. What they didn't know was, they were setting me free. A year later, I stood in the same city I once left with nothing but a backpack and a bruised ego. Only this time, I wasn't hiding. I was being honored. The Chamber of Commerce had invited me to speak at a global entrepreneurship summit, from rejection to reinvention. The stage lights were blinding, but my mind was clear. I looked out into the crowd, investors, founders, young dreamers scribbling notes, and smiled. Sometimes, I began, the people closest to you will bury you, thinking they're ending you. But you're not soil, you're seed. Applause thundered, but I didn't pause for it. I wasn't there for validation. I was there for someone who needed to hear what I never did. I was told I'd never make it without a degree, that I was embarrassing the family, that I was trash. But here's what no one tells you when you build in silence. Your success doesn't need to scream, it echoes. After the talk, as I was leaving, a young woman stopped me, eyes wet, shaking. My parents said the same thing to me. "Thank you, for proving them wrong." I hugged her. "Don't prove them wrong," I whispered. "Prove yourself right." Later that night, my driver handed me an envelope. "Someone left this for you, ma'am. No name." I opened it in the car. Inside a check. $500, signed in my father's handwriting. Memo line, "For all the times I said you couldn't." I stared at it for a long moment, not with anger, not even with satisfaction. Just peace, because the lesson had already been paid in full. I didn't cash it. I framed it, a relic of who I used to be and everything I'd become without them. The next morning, I walked barefoot across the balcony of my newest penthouse overlooking Biscayne Bay. The water shimmered gold, quiet, patient like it knew. I took a deep breath, coffee in hand, and whispered to the wind. You were wrong about me, but thank you for it. Because every insult was a brick. Every rejection, a foundation. Every low life they spat became part of the life I built. They tried to make me small. Instead, they made me unstoppable. And now, when I look at everything I've built, every company, every home, every ounce of peace, I know exactly what they'll see when they think of me. Not their failure, not their regret, but their lesson. Because I wasn't the daughter they wanted. I became the woman they never could.